You're listening to Crazy Shit in Real Estate. You'll be amazed at all these wild but true situations that others have found themselves in. Because on this show, you'll hear uncensored, unbelievable stories from the world of real estate. I'm Leigh Brown. Let's dive right in. Before you get the rest of the story, I'd love to share a quick message from today's sponsor. This episode is sponsored by Follow Up Boss, one of the leading CRMs, client relationship managers for residential real estate. Tons of top producing agents and some of the fastest growing teams out there are using Follow Up Boss to increase lead conversion, eliminate busy work that you're not doing anyway, and frankly, deliver a higher class experience in real estate to everybody who chooses you as their realtor of choice. So if you're going to keep listening to this, which I know you will, there's more information and a personal review of Follow Up Boss. For more information, go to followupboss.com/crazy. Hello, friends. I'm Leigh Brown. This is Crazy Shit in Real Estate. Today, you get actually multiple stories from the one and only Karin Carr. And if you're wondering why that name's familiar, yes, she is the queen of real estate on YouTube. She's amazing. Dial in, enjoy this. And of course, you can follow up with her in all the show notes at the end, but I'll see you on the other side. Let's just start our little chat. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I feel like I'm in the presence of royalty since you're like Miss Queen YouTube, and my team is obsessed with you now. They're all stalking all of your online education because we realize we've got to take our YouTube game up 14 notches after being around Karin Carr. So tell us who you are and a little bit about your real estate life, and, let people know who Karin Carr is, besides my mysterious sister that we haven't confirmed yet.
That is so funny. And I never even saw it until I looked at that picture and said, oh yeah, now I see the resemblance. So I got licensed in 2005. I lived in Northern California. Like a day after I got my license, the market pretty much crashed in California. So I always joke that I'm sorry, apparently it was my fault that I got my license, and then the whole thing tanked. And for the first 2 years, I really, really struggled and thought nobody wants to sell, or well, they want to sell, but nobody wants to buy. So nothing is moving. There's no inventory turnover. It was just really, really scary in Northern California. And I stumbled into doing BPOs. Somebody in my office was doing BPOs, and he said, hey, at least if you're doing this at $50 a pop, you're making money so you can stay in the business. And after I did, 12 or 15 in the month of December when was that? 2006, it suddenly dawned on me that all of these people were in foreclosure. And because I was so new to real estate, I didn't even know what a short sale was. I had never heard of it before. It never dawned on me that I might be able to help these people avoid foreclosure and do a short sale instead. So I thought, well, if all these people are in foreclosure, maybe I should approach the banks and say, if you take the bank back or take the house back, you're going to need to sell it. Could I be your listing agent? And so after doing BPOs for about 6 or 7 months, one day I woke up to that magic email that said, congratulations, here's your new listing. And in 2008, I went from doing 3 deals the previous year to doing 73 transaction sides by myself without a team. It was insane. And boy, do I have crazy stories from that time.
So first of all, if you were or a listener, if you're not in real estate, a BPO is a broker price opinion. Those are things that are ordered by the bank to give them an ish number on your house. And what Karin's describing, they hire professional realtors to come up with a number. And sometimes we have full BPOs where we go inside the house, but most of the ones she's describing tend to be exterior. So that car slowly driving by the house, stopping and then backing up and then moving because we have to see the sides if we're trying to see the backyard. But it's all designed so the bank can get a handle on their asset. And Karin, you described moving into the most labor intensive part of real estate, which a lot of agents never have understood, that for the bank to handle an asset, they can't just wake up one morning and say, well, I'm just going to sell it, because they have to go through all of the red tape and the legal regulatory burden of taking a property back from somebody who's not been paying for it. And there's a process. And as realtors, when we even list those houses, you got to think about the keying of the house, who's got access to it, whose name are the utilities in, how are we going to manage all of these pieces? And it's 73 sales of regular houses would be more than most agents could handle. I'm flabbergasted that you could handle 73 bank assets because of the sheer volume of paperwork. But I guess, we were younger then. It's wild that it's been 15 years since the recession.
I know. I had a lot of energy then. I also had a husband who was a lot of help because he was an X-ray technician who would basically sit around the house and wait for his pager to go off to say, hey, we need you to come to the hospital. So if he was sitting at home waiting for that phone call, I would say, go do an occupancy check at this house. Tell me if anyone is still living there. Can you help me change the locks? Once we got over there and said, okay, they've already moved out, we need to change the locks. I can go hire a locksmith at $150 a pop, or we could just do it ourselves. So we would go to Lowe's and buy these deadbolts in bulk, and he would just take a pipe wrench and pop. It's really scary how easy you can flip the front door knob right off of your front door in about 5 seconds with just using a pipe wrench.
We don't condone this, friends. We're not.
No, we do not.
We're just saying that when it's vacant and the bank owns it and you have to have access, this is a way to do it. I still have my keychain full of my master keys for my master quick set, my master schleg, I have a whole bag of Fannie Mae and Freddie keys. And they probably don't fit anything anymore, but I have it because I'm obviously a realtor hoarder. Do you still have your master keys?
Oh, totally. Yes, I have all of them. And because of that knowledge, I learned okay, we need to have better security on our own front door now that I know how easy it is to break into a house. But you're right. It was so labor intensive. Not only did you have to go over there, and if somebody still lived in the house, I was the one that had to say, I'm so sorry to tell you this, that your house sold on the courthouse steps yesterday. You need to move out. You don't own it anymore. And I was a marriage counselor. I was a therapist. People were crying on my shoulder. I was having to counsel them. Hey, it's okay. You had a $4,500 mortgage payment. That was insane. You never should have been given that mortgage in the first place. So now you're going to go somewhere that you can rent. You can afford it. We're going to take some time to breathe. And then in a few years, now you're going to know better for next time. You have to buy a house.
Great perspective.
Yeah. I mean, I just felt like they got in way over their heads because somebody just wanted to make a quick buck and clearly did not counsel them. But you have to say, listen, if you and your spouse together make $75,000 a year, what are you doing buying a $700,000 house? You're never going to be able to pay for this.
This might be the first time I've ever heard somebody articulate that it was good for the foreclosure to happen because it allowed for a reset of the monthly obligation and a reset of how to get things better, because so many people were in over their heads. But just as I'm sure you've experienced, we've talked to a lot of people now that we helped out of short sales who, after the time had passed and they got their finances fixed, they have now bought other properties that make more sense. And they're in a better place now than they were in 5 and 6. And it's all perspective. And I'm really glad you're bringing it up right now, because any realtor listening to this, and any consumer, we're recording this in December 2021. The markets are stabilizing right now. There is going to be a need for realtors to understand how to help somebody that's underwater, because markets don't always just go up. Markets are fluid. They go up, they go down. People pay too much. They get over obligated on home equity lines. And great realtors are always figuring out how to do what you did, to be a solution provider no matter what.
Yeah. I mean, I felt so awful for these people at first, but then when I was sitting in their living room listening to their stories and just thinking, who was the lender who gave them this mortgage that thought this was a good idea? I just wanted to throttle half the people in our industry. And so now when I sit down with people and they say, I just got approved for this much money, the first thing I say is, do you understand what that monthly mortgage payment is going to be? Just because you're approved for that doesn't mean that's how much you have to spend. So let's make sure that whatever price point you go with, you are comfortable with what that monthly mortgage payment will be.
Isn't that like dating? Just because somebody asked you out does not mean you should go.
That's right.
Okay. So obviously, Karin, you run a highly successful business in Savannah now that is not eat up with bank properties. You work with regular people. You've worked with bank properties. You've been in the business for approaching 2 decades. So you know that my listeners are very interested in the fun side and the unexpected and the side of real estate. So I'm dying to know what story you came to the table with today.
Do you want to hear some of the REO stories, or do you want to hear some of the YouTube stories? I got both.
To tell one of each because you're like my seriously secret super sister now. So you get to tell two stories. And by the way, if you think we look like we're related, you should respond in the comments because Facebook thinks we look like sisters. So we want to know what Rumble and YouTube and the podcast platforms think too. If you're listening to this, then just imagine in your head what we look like.
I know. I mean, when I'm looking at us on camera now, honestly, I don't see it. But when we're side by side and our hair color was similar, we had similar eyebrows, we had the same laugh lines right here. It's like, okay, now I see it. But
I'm so proud of my laugh lines. I love them.
I am too. I don't love the 11s because that comes from scowling, but I love the laugh lines because
but it beats the hell out of Botox and a smooth face. It doesn't.
Amen, sister. Remember Sex and the City, Candace Bergen? I am so angry. That's my favorite line. Okay. A good story from the foreclosure days. I had to do a cash for keys at a house that was in a rather sketchy neighborhood a little bit. And I rang the doorbell. This man answered. And I said, I am so sorry to tell you this. The house sold on the courthouse steps. I'm here to offer you money to help you move. The bank is willing to give you money to help you move and get a fresh start somewhere new. Very nice man. He gave me his name, his phone number, and then I went on my merry way. So over the weekend, my husband is reading the newspaper on a Saturday morning. We're drinking coffee and he says, didn't you get a listing on Bristol Lane? And I said, yes. And he said, was it in the 200 block? And I said, yes. And he said, was the man's name blah, blah, blah? And I said, yes. And he said, he was just arrested for stealing a car that had a baby in the back seat in a car seat.
What?
So immediately I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this is like a major hardened criminal. And I was standing on his front porch and having a nice conversation with him. I had no idea. So I said, well, I guess now I don't have to worry about cash for keys because he's in jail. So we had to in California, you have to let a specific period of time go by before you can do the sheriff's eviction. I show up at the house on the day and time with the sheriff. We are in the house upstairs. And I glance out the window and I see people looting the house while we are in the house with the sheriff. People are running into the garage, grabbing whatever they can and taking off down the street with it. So I said,
while you're in the house,
we're in the house and I'm watching this whole thing. So I said, excuse me, officer, this is what's happening downstairs right now. So we go downstairs and he says, what are you people doing? And they're like, well, these are my tools. So I'm not going to let you just send them to the dump or take them all. These are my things. And we had no way to prove otherwise. But the alternative was we were going to have a clean out crew come with a big truck and take all of this stuff away. So the sheriff was like, take whatever you guys want. And we basically had a not-for-profit garage sale. So we would have left to clean out later. Yeah, that was a crazy property.
Okay. So I told y'all that I would do a review of Follow Up Boss, because I'm your friend in real estate. And I did. Now, there's a blue million CRM out there. I mean, if you go to any Facebook group, every realtor's like, which one should I use? Which one should I use? And you know that these CRM, which are client relationship managers or customer relationship manager, whatever you want to call it, it's truly a system that's just designed to help you know what to do next because you're very busy and you're a multitasker in real estate. And with all those different tasks and balls up in the air, you need something to help you stay on track. And that's what Follow Up Boss does. Now, when you save a name and a phone number in there, that is basically a Rolodex. Follow Up Boss is going to take the names and phone numbers and also help you know what to do next. So you can maintain these relationships with your neighbors because that's what this is about. Real estate is not about serving just prospects and clients. It's about taking great care of your neighbors' needs in real estate. And if you'll use a tool like Follow Up Boss, where they remember you, they might even call you when they're ready to buy or sell again, or when their mom and daddy do, or their best friend or their kid, and you want to be top of mind, that's what a product like Follow Up Boss will do for you. Truly, it's going to change your business when you start paying better attention to people. They don't have to know you used Follow Up Boss, but they'll totally understand that they are being heard by you. So now there's a free trial for my people because you're loved. Go to followupboss.com/crazy. No credit card is required. inspired. And frankly, because you're my people and we made an ask for you, Follow Up Boss said, yes, you get double the free trial. That's actually enough time to log in, put some pieces in it, and watch it change your business as it has for so many realtors and teams nationwide. Again, go to followupboss.com/crazy to start your free trial today. So first of all, did we get the baby back? Was the baby okay?
Yes, the baby was found safe and sound.
So,
Can
the
you
mom
imagine?
asked that. But all right, so how did these people know to come loot this house at that time? Was he calling somebody from prison saying they're over there, y'all go get your stuff?
Maybe, I don't know. Maybe they all just lived on the same street and they knew what this guy did to earn money and they knew that his garage was full of good stuff. I don't know. So yeah, the garage door was open and they were just running in and helping themselves to whatever they could run off with.
I mean, I'm glad the sheriff made that choice, though, because frankly, your safety would have possibly been at risk if he tried to run them off.
Yeah.
Did your safety even cross your mind right then, or were you just too flabbergasted by the this is actually happening moment?
I was just so flabbergasted and I wasn't really concerned for my safety because I was standing there with multiple police officers who were heavily armed. So I knew, like, I'm just going to stand behind them and let them do their thing and maybe hide upstairs if I have to.
Oh my God.
And it was in broad daylight. So I wasn't, crazy times. And that's just one of many, many stories. There was another one where a teenager stole his dad's car. He was underage and wasn't yet able to drive and crashed into the house after the buyer had signed all of the loan docs, but before the money had changed hands and like basically took out the entire front of the house. So then the argument ensues of who's got to pay for the damages because the buyer has signed, but the money has not transferred hands yet. Because in California, it doesn't happen at the same time. That was fun. Meanwhile, the buyer has nowhere to go because the front of the house is now missing. It's wide open. Yeah, there were so many stories from those days that were just like, I can't make this stuff up. It's insane.
So in Georgia, is it the same setup as it is in California where there's a gap between signing and recordation of the deed before the ownership actually transfers?
Nope. You get the keys at the closing table. So the buyer comes in, he signs all the documents. We hand him the key. He immediately takes possession of the house. In California, it was more like 3 to 5 business days. So if it happened over a weekend, it could be a week. It could easily be a week. If you signed on a Thursday, you might not be getting the keys until the following Wednesday.
See, North Carolina is a race state, kind of like that. We sign at the closing table, then the deed is recorded. So you don't actually get keys until the recording of the deed, which is usually same day. But if you try to close, God forbid, on a Friday afternoon and the courthouse is closed, because you don't tap your brake lights in front of those people at the courthouse. They are gone at 5 o'clock or 4:30, and it could wait till over a weekend. And so it's always interesting to me how real estate is. It doesn't seem like that big a deal until you're the buyer with your worldly goods on a moving truck. And then you got to turn the truck back into U-Haul, the dog's in the bed and biscuit over there, and the kids are at mom's house, and everything can get completely upended depending on what state you're in, which is also why you want a professional realtor wherever you are, because if you're buying things through websites, you might not know how this works. And frankly, you realtors should be educating your clients as to how this works, not at the last second. Just a little pointing there about education. That's our second point on education. We'll add a third one, I guess. So tell us another good story from YouTube, because you are the YouTube queen. And don't worry, friends, I'm going to link all of her stuff in the show notes for this episode, because I know you're dying to go see her YouTube presence, and you will. But tell us a story about it first, though, Karin.
Well, I started making YouTube videos because I had moved from California and I was now in a new market and nobody knew me and I had no market share and I had no sphere because I was in a city where I literally did not know anybody. And so I started making YouTube videos just quite frankly, because I had nothing better to do. Like, what was I going to do all day to try to get clients? I could door knock, but at the time I lived in Atlanta and it's very hilly and it's very humid. So I would climb all the way up the driveway, get to their front door, ring the doorbell. And I'm like, hi, are you thinking about selling your house? And they probably thought I was deranged and, slammed the door in my face. That was always fun. And I didn't really enjoy cold calling and doing all of those things. So I started making YouTube videos, just trying to educate people about where I lived and the buying and selling process in the market that I lived in. And then my husband got transferred. So we moved to Savannah. And the very first call I got when we moved to Savannah, and we must have been there for a couple of days, we're still unpacking the boxes. And this man says, I found your YouTube channel. I've been watching all of your videos. I feel like I know you already. We are selling our house in New York. We're moving to Georgia. We want you to help us. We have picked you already. Here's my budget. Here's my wife's name. Here's my dog's name. Here's my kids' names. I need this. It's like he tells me his whole life story. And I'm thinking, I'm sorry, who is this? What is your name again? Because that had never happened to me before. And that was what spurred the whole YouTube channel. When he said, I feel like I know you already, it was like, okay, we all know we're supposed to be doing video. We know that video is the way of the future. I've heard it a million times, but I never really understood it until that moment. So after that, I said, okay, I'm going to make it one video a week. What's the worst that can happen is nothing happens and I waste my time. But within 6 months, that's where I was getting the majority of my business. And I think my best story is, for those of you that are watching the video, that little plaque thingy that's on the top of my bookcase back there. My client, who just closed about a month ago, was a professional illustrator for Marvel. Like, he was illustrating Marvel movies, and he got a job offer in Savannah to be a professor at the College of Art and Design. What? So at the closing table, I walked into the room and he pulls out this painting that he did of me as super agent, and says, Karin, you are our hero. Like, I literally cried, because how cool is that somebody made that for me as the closing gift. And we hardly ever get gifts at the closing. We give the gifts. We're not usually the receiver of the gift. So it was unusual to get anything, let alone something that personal and special. Yeah, that was pretty amazing.
So when is that going to become like the centerpiece of your marketing campaign? Is that going to be your campaign of Wonder Karin, or what did he name you?
He called me Super Agent.
Much.
I know. I was like, can I use this as my logo from now on?
Yes, he gave it to you. It's you. It's your likeness.
It's awesome.
Oh, see, and that's what happens when you're willing to just put yourself out there. It's not about being perfect. It's about being there so they can see that you're not a bot. And nobody believes that you're a bot because they can hear your voice and see your eyes and decide that there is a human right here I should call.
Yep.
And she's a super agent.
I'm a super agent. And it was really neat because he called me 3 years ago. He called me when he had his job interview, and he called and said, this is so weird. Like, this probably never happens, but I found you on YouTube. And meanwhile, I'm thinking, you're about the fourth call I've gotten today, but it's so funny that they think they're the only ones. And he said, I'm not really ready to buy yet. I was born and raised in New York. Like, I've never bought a house before. Do you know what things cost here? I can't afford to buy. But if I take this job in Savannah, I might actually finally be able to buy my first house. Oh, and so he's in his 50s, and his wife is a little bit older than he is. So I thought that was so cool that they were going to be first-time buyers. So he took me to lunch. We went to this restaurant, and I basically just gave him the spiel of going from a renter to being a homeowner. These are the things you're going to need to know. And it took him 2.5 years to build up his credit, pay down the debt, save up the money, do all of the things. And when he called me and said, guess what? I'm ready. I got money in the bank. I just got pre-approved. We're doing it. I was so excited for him. So this has been a very long journey. And yes, it's such a special story that they're finally homeowners, finally, after all this time.
When you talk about the unsung part of why we love realtor life, if somebody's watching HGTV, you see all this glitz, all this flash. You would never see this guy and his wife put the shoulder to the wheel for 3 years with their realtor by their side to say, yes, you can. Let's figure this out so that they can buy what is probably not the most glamorous house in the world. And who gives a rip, because now it's theirs and they never had that before. Because this doesn't make good TV in today's little sad reality driven world. But oh my gosh, it builds your heart. It's so amazing.
I know. They don't show these little starter homes on HGTV that don't really cost that much money, and they're not really that beautiful, and they need a little bit of cosmetic fixing up. But to them, this was 50 years in the making. This was a huge deal for them.
I love that so much. Okay, Karin. So if somebody wants to connect with you because they want to know more about your YouTube channel and about the training that you provide to realtors and other small businesses about building their presence, or they want to find a realtor with a heart like you and your team in Savannah, what is the best way for people to find you?
Probably on YouTube. So the channel we have for people that want to buy or sell a house in Georgia or South Carolina, because now we cover multiple areas, it's called Georgia Coast Homes. So if you go to YouTube and you search Georgia Coast Homes, you'll find our channel. I have another channel that's for real estate agents who just want to learn more about using YouTube as a way to build your business, because it is, aside from the REO business, which kept me in business from 2006 until 2013, this is seriously the best thing I've ever discovered as far as lead generation that not only is effective, it's really fun. And it doesn't even feel like work because you're having a good time doing it. That channel is just my name, Karin Carr. Karin is with an I. Thank you, Mom. Karin. And I do videos every week just teaching people like how to get started on YouTube and little tips and tricks that I've learned along the way that make a big difference.
So there you go, guys. This is not just a guru who does things. This is a guru who does things and practices a professional career at the same time. And by the way, if your event is looking for somebody to speak on YouTube to train people, she's available for that as well. So Karin, thank you so much for coming on the show and giving us some, you got a house looted while you were in it. This is a first for the podcast. So thank you for bringing us a fresh story, but also for giving us the heart. We get to hear about Super Agent because I freaking love that so much.
Thanks for having me, Leigh. This was a lot of fun.
All right, guys, if you enjoyed Karin, you know the rules. Give her a nice comment down here in the comment thread. Give us a subscribe, a like, a 5 stars, and most importantly, tune back in and we'll see you next time. Okay, now don't forget to go try Follow Up Boss so that your business can continue to expand in professionalism and then you can meet some more crazy people yourself. I really appreciate Follow Up Boss sponsoring this episode, but mainly I appreciate them for giving y'all double the free trial time with no credit card required. So make sure you go to followupboss.com/crazy and then let me know what you think. I'll see you guys next time. As always, I'm so super thrilled that you joined in for more crazy shit. And if you're a realtor, investor, inspector, lender, or just a regular human being who happens to have an unbelievable story that you need to tell the world about, or well, you just need to one-up the story you just heard, then make sure to DM me on Instagram at Leigh Thomas Brown or tweet me at Leigh Brown or frankly any social network where you hang out. I'm there. And if you had some fun, then you totally want to subscribe so you don't miss out on any future episodes.